Good evening, Shabbat Shalom, and welcome to everyone. Good to have you here with us as we have our first Shabbat after Pesach. So technically spring is here, even if the weather doesn't prove it. We'll begin our service this evening as we traditionally do on page 142 with the singing of Shalom Aleichem. Please join me. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Very good. Let's turn back a bit to page 130. Actually, we're going to do candles first. If Sheila would come up, she'll light those, and the blessing you can find even before that on page 120. Amen. Thank you. Lovely. All right. So tonight we're going to start on 130, which is the first of the Psalms that make up the Kabbalat Shabbat service, as you can see at the top of that page. I'm going to use the traditional tune. It's going to repeat, so if you want to try and sing along, you're welcome to. And if not, hopefully you'll just enjoy the melody. It goes like this. Lechu niranena ladonai, naria litzur yishenu, nikad mafana betodah, bismiro narialo, nikad mafana betodah, bismiro narialo. repeats in the next paragraph. Ki el gadol Adonai umelech gadol al kol Elohim asher biyado mecherei haaretz v'to'afot harim lo asher biyado mecherei haaretz v'to'afot harim lo. Very good. All right. Let's turn now to 133, the bottom of the page. Chris, would you like to do an English reading? It's okay to say no. No, you're going to pass? Okay. Page 130, we'll just read together in the English, beginning where it says a psalm. 133. A psalm. Sing to Adonai a new song, for God has worked wonders. God's right hand, God's holy arm has won God victory. Adonai has manifested God's victory, has displayed God's triumph in the sight of the nations. God was mindful of God's steadfast love and faithfulness toward the house of Israel. All the ends of the earth beheld the victory of our God. Raise a shout to Adonai, all the earth. Break into joyous songs of praise. Next page. Sing praise to Adonai with the lyre and melodious song. With trumpets and the blast of the horn, raise a shout before Adonai, the ruler. Let the sea and all within it thunder, the world and all its inhabitants. Let the rivers clap their hands, the mountains sing joyously together at the presence of Adonai. For God is coming to rule the earth. God will rule the world justly and its peoples with equity. Very good. All right. So now we're ready to turn to 138 for Lecha Dodi. And this evening, we'll do all the verses on page 138 and then skip to the last verse on 139. And I promised Chris a peppy melody, so we're going to use what I call the Israeli tune. All right, so join in together with me as you feel comfortable. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat nikabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, Hishmi'anu el hamiuchad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, L'shem u'letiferet v'litila. Lecha Dodi Dodi, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat nikabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, Ki hi mekor ha-beracha, Mehirosh mikedem nisucha, Sof ma'aseh b'machashavat chila. Lecha, lecha dodi, dodi, lecha dodi likrat kalam, Penei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kalam, Penei Shabbat nikabela. Verse 3, Mihikdash melech ir melucha, Ku mitzei mitocha hafecha, Rav lach shevet b'yemek habacha, Vehu yachamol ala yichem la. Lecha Dodi Dodi, Lecha Dodi likrat kalam, Penei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pene Shabbat nikabela. Hitna ari me'afar kumi, Leave she big day tifatech amim, Al yad ben yishai beit halachmim, Korva el nafshi geala. Lecha, lecha, dodi, dodi, lecha, dodi, likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nikabela, lecha, dodi, likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nikabela. Verse 9, we rise and face the door. Bohi beshalom ateret bala, Gam besimcha uvetzohala, Toch emunei am segula, Bohi chala, Lecha dodi, Lecha dodi likrat kalam, Pene Shabbat nikabela, Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pene Shabbat nikabela. You may be seated. Page 140, we find the Psalm for Shabbat. Let's read that in English together. It is good to praise Adonai, to sing hymns to your name, O Most High, to proclaim your steadfast love at daybreak, your faithfulness each night, with a 10-string harp, with voice and lyre together. You have gladdened me by your deeds, Adonai. I shout for joy at your handiwork. How great are your works, Adonai! How very subtle your designs. A brute cannot know, a fool cannot understand this. The righteous bloom like a date palm, they thrive like a cedar in Lebanon. Planted in the house of Adonai, they flourish in the courts of our God. In old age, they still produce fruit. They are full of sap and freshness, attesting that Adonai is upright, my rock in whom there is no wrong. So on the Hebrew where it's indented, just above that English reading, we'll use the tune I taught for dancing, to Tzadik Katamar. Tzadik Katamar yifrach yifrach, Tzadik Katamar yifrach, Tzadik Katamar yifrach yifrach, Tzadik Katamar yifrach, Ki eres balvanon yizger, Ki eres balvanon yizger, Ki eres balvanon yizger, yizger. Ki eres balvanon yizger, Ki eres balvanon yizger, Ki eres balvanon yizger, yizger. Good. It's nice to hear people remember that one. Maybe we'll do it and dance again some other Shabbat. All right. So we will now move to 144, which is the Chatzi Kaddish, marking that this is the end of Kabbalat Shabbat and the beginning of the Ma'ariv service. So in a moment we will rise and do that prayer together, then continue on the next page with the call to prayer, the Baruch Hu. We'll remain standing through the Shema, and then be seated from that point to the end of the Shema prayers leading up to the Amidah. Okay? So first on 144, if you're physically able, please rise for the Chatzi Kaddish. Yitzka hadal yitka hadash shemen rabba amen, bi'alma divra chirute, v'yamlich malchute, B'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol Beit Yisrael Bagala bagala uvisman kari veimeru amen Yehi shmei rabba mevorach Li'olam li'ol mehal maya yitbarach v'yishtabach Bechar v'yitroma v'yitnasem v'yithada v'yitale v'yithalal Shemede kutsha berichu Leila min kol birchata v'shirata Tushbechata v'nechemata Da'amiran bi'alma v'imeru Amen. 146, the call and response to the Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed. We remain standing, turn the page, as I'll do the Chatimah, the concluding blessing of this paragraph. El Chai v'Kayam Tamidim Lo Chaleinu Le'olam va'ed Baruch Ata Adonai Ha'ma'ariv Ha'ravim Amen. 150, let's read the English paragraph together. Everlasting love, you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. V'avatecha al tasir mimenu li'olamim, Baruch ata Adonai, ohev hamo Yisrael. Amen. Page 152. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Avoid. 154. V'yavta et Adonai Elohecha. You may be seated. Bechol levavecha uvechol nafshecha uvechol meodecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha Vishinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha u'v'lechtecha v'derech u'v'shochbecha u'v'kumecha u'kshartam li'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha Uvisharecha leman tizkeruhu v'asitem et kol mitzvotaim v'hiyitem kedoshim lelohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim Yot lachem lelohim, ani Adonai Elohechem, Adonai Elohechem emet. 158, we find this transitional prayer from the Shema to the Amidah, two of our most important prayers, and this is one that comes from the Az Yashir Moshe, the song that Moses and the children of Israel sang right after and before the first Pesach, but right after we were released from slavery and went through the Sea of Reeds on foot. And the Egyptians who chased after us didn't make it. We were happy and sang this song. So please join me in it on 158. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, Norah tehilot osef elev. Malchutecha ra'uvanecha bokei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam, Ze Elianu v'amru, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'em. V'ne'emar ki fada Adonai et Yaakov, uga'alo mi'ad chazak mimenu, baruch ata Adonai, Gal Yisrael. Amen. 160, let's read the English under this paragraph. Grant, O God, that we lie down in peace and raise us up, our guardian, to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel. For your name's sake, be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us against enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from wrongdoing. For you, God, watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, are gracious and merciful. Guard our coming and going and coming to life and to peace evermore. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, v'al kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim. Amen. We turn to page 164 as we get ready for the Amidah, for our chance to have a private audience with God this evening. We will chant the words on 164 in Hebrew and in English together, almost as a meditation, getting us ready for the prayers that will continue. 166 and 168 we'll do out loud together. Then you'll continue silently all the way through 180. And whenever you've finished your silent prayers, whether they are in Hebrew or English or your own personal prayers, please be seated so we know when everyone is ready to continue. So first, 164, the Amidah. Adonai sifatai tiftachu fi yagid hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor, v'Hanora El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, v'Konei HaKol, v'Zocher Chasdei Avod v'Imahot, u'mevi geula livnei v'neihem, leman shemo b'yava, melech ozer u'moshia u'magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Abraham, v'Ezrat Sarah. Next, page 168, we're going to do the summer one, not the winter one. Atagim bor leolam Adonai, mechaye hakol atarav lehoshia, morid hatal. Mechalkel chayim bechesed, mechaye hakol berachamim rabim. סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו, לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלע. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. Before we leave these holy moments of the Amidah prayer, we want to pause for a prayer for those who are ill, whether of body or spirit or both. This week I have the following names on my Mishiberach list: Tony Lee, Hannah Levin, Valerie Horner, Rona Paquette, Jackie Farrow, Robert Tyndall, Miriam Schneier, Avraham Leib, Morton Kaplan, Bonnie Levine, Martin Jean, Kevin Killip, Emmett McDonald, Sharon Schneier, Rebecca Chappis, Colleen Halpern, Linda Stewart, Cheryl Nicole Wright, Karen Devora Batmasodi Van Norman, Lori Curtis, Asher Israel, Terry McCastiker, Elisa Wright Tammy, Gail Kaplan, Yosef Shimon, Solomon Smear, Elizabeth Enright, Sue Ann Frankel, Harry Indig, Larry Brodsky, Alonda Trombley, Michal Weinberg-Kessler, Kate Barber, A.J. Conrada, Michael Crook, David Lazarus, Richard Marceau, Israel Ben Avraham, Julie Ann Frankel, Yocheved Orly Batsara, Bela Dietrich. And we add special prayers for all those who have been wounded emotionally or physically in Israel or in any of the wars around the world who are innocent. We keep all of them in our mind and in our prayers. Are there other names people would like added this evening? Thank you. Anybody online? Okay. Page 371, please join me in this blessing for health. Mi shebeirach avoteinu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi shebeirach imotenu mekor habracha la'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Again, Shabbat Shalom and welcome to each and every one of you. It's always important to have you here, but tonight, just as a little sort of halachic point, even though we're not a halachic congregation, most of you probably know that to have a minyan, which is the name for the quorum that we need to have in order to hold the full Jewish prayer. Traditionally, it's 10 men over the age of bar bat mitzvah. In liberal movements, it's 10 people over the age of bar or bat mitzvah. And we are, I believe, at 9. But according to the halakha, many congregations will count the Sefer Torah as one, as that would be the 10th. So even though we don't worry about halakha here, if anybody was concerned by counting the Torah, we do have a minyan tonight. Tonight's Torah portion is called Shmini. We're still in the middle of the book of Vayikra. In fact, there is a theory that in one place in this week's Torah reading, there is a Vav that's bigger than any other letters on its line. And they were trying to figure that out because it's not the whole word. And most of what I could find that people came up with is they believe that that is the exact center of the 5 books of Moses. Obviously, if you have 5 books, Leviticus is the middle book. And so this Vav letter in this week's Parsha supposedly is exactly where the middle of all the letters of the Torah are. The Parsha has a couple of interesting things. Of course, it's got, the Shmini talks about, it means from the 8th, from the Shmona, the number 8, because on the 8th day, Aaron and his sons were doing some sort of sacrifices and things. And there's a lot of sacrifices, of course, and those are some of the commandments that we don't do anymore since we don't have a temple. But there are a couple of interesting things in this Parsha. One of them is, and some of you may remember this story, that at the end of this ceremony, where the priests have had this consecration on the 8th day, 2 of Aaron's sons go out and offer a strange fire to God, and they are basically zapped right there on the spot. and they die at the altar for having offered this strange fire, as it's called. Now that's interesting for a couple of reasons. First of all, for those of us who are liberal Jews in some of the liberal movements, that could present a problem. Some people may read that as God struck them down because they were being creative and we shouldn't be creative. Obviously, that's not my reading of it. And even the rabbis don't follow that one so much, at least the traditional rabbis, because there weren't those liberal movements back then. But the explanation they come up with is right after that happens, God goes to Aaron and specifically says, never drink intoxicating beverages when you're going to offer the sacrifices of any kind. And so the rabbis took the proximity of that paragraph to the death of Aaron's sons to basically make up the story that they were drunk, and that's why they were zapped. So that's a midrash. That's something that we can do creatively, in our opinion of the Torah, which, as it says in the book of Deuteronomy, lo bashamayim hi, it's not up in the heavens anymore once it's been given to us. The second interesting thing is in this parsha, we get the first real laws about keeping kosher. This is where God tells us of the animals that we can eat. They have to have both a cloven hoof and they have to chew their cud. They have to ruminate. Those are the only animals that we're allowed to eat. Birds doesn't give us quite the same classification, but it gives us a list. And when I read the list, it seems to me that birds of prey are the ones that we're not allowed to have, but it's more, I don't want to say domesticated, but non-raptors like ducks, geese, chickens, turkeys that we are allowed to eat. We do get specifics for the seafood, despite what some people call New Orleans kosher, where they have one set of dishes for meat and one for milk and one for shellfish. They're not allowed, according to this week's Torah portion. No shellfish. Anything from the sea has to have both fins and scales. So, some people say that's because you can't have bottom feeders. Well, that's not true. Carp are bottom feeders, and they're like one of the main ingredients in traditional gefilte fish, right? Catfish have fins, but they do not have scales. The same, obviously, with sharks. Porpoises and whales are mammals, and therefore wouldn't qualify under that. But all the shellfish are also forbidden to us. So that's what we get. We have to remember that the laws of kashrut, some of them, like the ones I just reviewed for you, are in the Torah, but others we get from the rabbis. Nowhere in the Torah does it say you need 2 sets of dishes and 2 sets of pots and pans, and you have to wait so many hours. That's all rabbinical law. But then we have to ask the question, why do we have these laws anyway? What the heck difference does it make what we eat? What's the reason for kashrut? Why are we supposed to keep kosher? Anybody want to take a guess at that one? No points off for guessing. It's not the SATs. Gab? Okay, an awareness of what we're eating. Good. 5. Okay, so that's a possibility. 5 is sharing, for those of you who are online and can't hear, she was sharing the thought that maybe thousands of years ago somebody ate a particular snail or something and died from it, and so they figured out that that was not okay to eat. Otherwise we would die, so we shouldn't be eating those. Those are all good thoughts. Other thoughts? Anybody else? Well, it actually tells us in the Parsha, right after it gives us this list of animals, it says, you should do this because you are a holy people unto me, and I, the Lord your God, am holy. So it's really all about how we become a holy people. Now, holy is an interesting word. It means lots of different things. It means special. It means separate. It means, all kinds of things like that. not any one specific definition. But I believe what it's trying to tell us is that when we eat, we as humans need to make eating a holy act. Otherwise, we're no different or no better than the animals. And that's why the rabbis add to the laws, not just of kashrut, but they tell us, before you sit down and have a meal, you say a blessing. Whether you're eating a whole meal and you say hamotzi, or bread and you say hamotzi, or whether you're having a snack and you say one of the other blessings. And then when we finished eating, it says specifically in the Torah, v'achalta v'savata uveirachta, you should eat and be satisfied and bless God for what you have received. And that's why we say what we call birkat hamazon, or grace after meals in English, after all the meals. And in fact, the rabbis, after the temple was destroyed, basically said that our tables where we sit and have meals are like a mikdash ma'at. They're like a miniature sanctuary. They're not the holy sanctuary. They're not the temple in Jerusalem. But now that we don't have that temple, we have to remember and we have to make our homes special by following these rules, not only of what we eat, but saying blessings before and after we eat. And I add one more that just was meaningful to me personally, and why we decided to start keeping kosher. We have a value in Judaism called hachnasat orchim, which means the welcoming of guests. And in order to fulfill that mitzvah more, we thought, well, we don't want people who observe kashrut not to feel welcome in our home, so maybe we should observe kashrut as well. And yes, there's always going to be people who, you're not quite kosher enough for because they're going to be checking all the little minutia laws. But the idea of making it holy and special is not just for the food and not just for the blessings, but for the community that we create when we eat and share bread together. Shabbat shalom. We're ready to turn back to our prayer books now for the concluding prayers of our service. We begin first with the Aleinu on page 586, and I ask that you please rise. We'll do the second paragraph, and then we'll continue on 588, at the top paragraph, and then we'll jump all the way to 591 for the concluding words. Page 586, please join me. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula leyotzer bereshit, shelo asanu kigoyei haratzot, velo samanu kemishpachot adamam, shelo sam chelkeinu kohem, וגאור עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, הוא נוטה שמיים ויוסר הארץ, ומה שיקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אינו, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחם. Ein od, 591. ונאמר היה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, Bayom hahu, Yeh Adonai Echad, Ushemo Echad. You may be seated. As we do at each of our services, we pause to remember those generations that have come before us. And some of you were here for the Yizka service Wednesday evening, which was the end of the seventh day of Passover. And many in the Reform movement and other liberal movements only follow 7 days of Passover, as they do in Israel. But others do observe on the 8th day. But when we did our Yizka service, we had all the names on the board lit up. This evening we have only the ones whose yahrzeit is this week. And the names that I have on the list for this week include Rabbi Jonathan Plaut, Marvin Fuller, Sasha Gerstelt, Rebecca Goldstein, William Morris, Robert Godden, Joseph Levine, Sarah Cohen, Harold Gold, Fred Kilborn, Lev Gorelick, Lawrence Green, Michael Lasansky, Charles Moglov, Mildred Summer, Naomi Klein, Leonard Lubansky. Other names people would like added to our yahrzeit list for this week? Any online? Okay. If you are able, please rise for the Mourner's Kaddish on page 598. Yitkada v'yitkadash shemei Rabba, Amen. Be'alma divra chirute ve'amlich malchute b'chayechon u'vyomechon u'v'chaye decho Beit Yisrael ba'galau v'zman kari v'imru Amen. Yehei shmei Rabba mavorach li'olam u'l'olmei omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. Vit hadar, vit ale, vit halal, shmei dekucha brichu. Le'ela minko birchata v'shirata, tush bechata v'nechemata, da'amiran bi'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru, amen. Please be seated. All right. So the announcements for the coming week. There is a Friendship Circle meeting at 6:30 on April the 28th. All people in the congregation are welcome to that meeting. The high tea that was scheduled for April 19th has been canceled. This coming week, Monday evening at 7 p.m., there will be a community-wide Yom HaShoah service. This year it's at Shar HaShemayim. The April calendar is available on the table in the foyer as well as online. I'm starting a Hebrew reading class Thursday, April 30th. That'll be from 7:15 to 8:15. That is open to anyone who would like to improve or learn to read Hebrew from scratch. I do need you to register by sending me an email. I just need the email from you, just saying I'd like to join the Hebrew class or something like that. And then I will email you the book. The book is in an electronic form, and you can print it out at your own pace. You can print it out all at once, and you'll have to bring those to the class in order to be able to follow along. Yes? 7 p.m. 7 o'clock p.m. Correct. It rotates every 3 years between the Shar, Bethel, and the JCC, and this year it's at the Shar. And there is a theme to it. I don't recall what the theme is. Something about children, yeah. Yeah, there's a guest speaker. There's also a choir that our own Tracy Ayton will be conducting. They're doing a couple of Yiddish numbers as well as the national anthems of Canada and Israel. And it'll be hopefully a very meaningful program. Speaking of singing, our very own Sarah and Mary will be singing at a festival on Sunday, April the 12th at 7 p.m. It's at an event called Movie, Musicals, and Magic. There's a sign supposedly in the foyer as well that has the place and the times listed if you're interested in going to that. Any other announcements that we have for the coming week? Anybody can think of? Religious school starts up again after spring break this coming Sunday. And there is a meeting of the 6th and 7th grade parents who are the pre-bar and bat mitzvah parents at 11:15 before school gets dismissed. Oh, thank you. Yes, yes. The JCC is having a Yom HaAtzmaut, the Israel Independence Day celebration. That is on Sunday, 19th, I think is the Sunday is the 12th, so Sunday the 19th. And I don't remember the time. It might be 3 o'clock. It should be on their website. Yes, for security reasons, it's important to always let Jewish organizations know when you're attending. So for that one as well, you do need to register. Okay, so having come from Passover and heading to Yom HaShoah, I thought we would end this evening with a different song. It's one that I'm looking for the page for it. It's a song by Chana Senesh that is often sung at Yom HaShoah observances and others having to do with the Second World War, where she perished as a partisan. It's called Eli, Eli. Thank you, 653. And by the way, just as a little tidbit for your information, the Israeli government decided that we Jews would celebrate Yom HaShoah v'hagavura, and very often that last word is left off, which means in heroism. So it's the Holocaust and Heroism Day. And they chose the date of the beginning of the Warsaw Ghetto Fighter Rebellion, which happened in April, so just after Pesach. But there is an international Holocaust Memorial Day that happens in January, and the UN decided to choose the date of the liberation of Auschwitz for that international celebration. So that's why we do it differently. 653, bottom of the page. If you know it, please join me. If not, sit back and enjoy the tune. Eli, Eli, shelo yigamer le'olam, hachol ve'hayam, rishru shel hamayim, berak hashamayim, tfilat ha'adam, hachol ve'hayam, rishru shel hamayim, berak hashamayim, tfilat ha'adam. O God, my God, I pray that these things never end. The sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart, the sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, and the prayers of a song. Shabbat Shalom. I will do the Kiddush momentarily and Hamotzi, and then we can go into the social hall to enjoy the Oned. וכל צבאם, ויכל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישפוט ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה, ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי, ויקדש אותו, כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו, כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו, אשר ברא אלוהים, אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. סברים, ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגפן, אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצבנו, ושבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחילנו, זיכרון למעשה בראשית, כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת עם כל העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת, amen. Chris, can you help me with Hamotzi up here?
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi melech lechem min haaretz.
Amen.
Amen.
Good job. Get the first piece. Shalom.